Hi there. Today we're drifting back in time, not to a battlefield or a king's court, but into the quiet, rustling, silk-lined world of the Japanese geisha. Picture it, a delicate hand pouring tea, the soft pluck of a three-stringed shamisen, a witty remark whispered behind a painted fan in a lantern-lit room. It's an image of supreme elegance and mystery, a cultural icon that feels untouchable. But tonight we're going to touch it. We're going to peel back the silk wipe, away the iconic white makeup, and look at the harsh, painful, and often miserable reality underneath. And let me just say, if you were suddenly dropped into this life with its brutal training and ironclad rules, you probably wouldn't make it past the first week. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. It's always a treat to see who's listening in, so feel free to post your location and what time it is where you are. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Your story doesn't begin with a dream of becoming an artist. It doesn't start with a choice. It begins with the gnawing ache of hunger in your belly and the weary, hollowed-out look in your parents' eyes. You are a little girl, perhaps 6 or 7 years old, living in a rough-hewn coastal village where the sea salt seems to corrode everything: the wood of your tiny home, the fabric of your clothes, and the hopes of your family. The catch has been poor for seasons, and the rice harvest on the mainland was no better. Every meal is a meager affair of watery soup and a few grains of barley, a constant reminder of the poverty that clings to your community like a damp fog. You have too many siblings, too many mouths for your father's failing nets to feed. One day a woman arrives. She is not from your village. Her kimono is made of a fabric you've never seen up close, and she doesn't have the sun-beaten, wind-chafed skin of the local women. She speaks with an accent that is crisp and foreign to your ears, the sound of the city. She has come to scout new talent, which sounds a lot nicer than the reality. It's a business transaction, plain and simple. She is the okasan, the mother of a geisha house, or okiya, in one of the city's famous entertainment districts, the Karyukai, the flower and willow world. Your parents, torn between shame and a desperate gut-wrenching pragmatism, present you to her. There is no negotiation on your part. You stand silently as this stranger inspects you. She turns your head from side to side, examines your hands, and then, in a moment of profound humiliation, pulls back your lips to check your teeth as if you were a pony at a country fair. This was a common practice. A girl's potential was judged on her features, her bone structure, and any sign of future beauty that might one day be profitable. Your parents receive a small pouch of coins, enough to feed the rest of the family for a year, a sum that feels both like a fortune and a pittance. It's the price of their daughter. Historians still argue whether parents in these situations were acting out of pure, cold economic desperation, or if a part of them genuinely believed they were offering their child a better future. A future away from starvation, a life where you would be fed, clothed in silk, and educated in the fine arts. For you in this moment, the distinction is meaningless. All you understand is that your mother will not meet your gaze, and your father's hand has vanished from your shoulder. You are being given away. The journey to the city is a bewildering smear of new sensations. The rumbling of the train, the press of the crowd, the dizzying array of smells, sweet dango, sharp pickles, coal smoke, and the unfamiliar scent of city filth. It's a world away from the clean, salty air of your village. You clutch a small bundle with your only spare rags, a wooden doll your brother carved for you, and the fading memory of your family's faces. The woman who now owns you speaks very little to you. Her expression, a mask of detached evaluation. You are no longer a daughter. You are an investment, a promissory note of future earnings. You arrive in a district of narrow lantern-lined streets and dark polished wood. This is the Hanamachi, the flower town. It is beautiful, but it feels menacing. You're led through a sliding door into your new home, the Okiya. The air inside is thick with the scent of incense floor wax and something else. A faint floral perfume mixed with tension. Several girls and women stop their work to stare at you, their faces ranging from pity to mild curiosity to cold indifference. The Oka-san announces your arrival and gives you a new name. Your old one, the one your parents gave you, is discarded like a worn-out sandal. This is a key part of the process, the systematic erasure of your past. You are to have no family but this one now. A mainstream historical fact is that this severing of family ties was essential. A geisha's loyalty had to be exclusively to her okiya, the sisterhood, and her future patrons. Your former life is now a dream you are expected to forget. You're handed a rough smock and pointed towards the kitchens. Your artistic training can wait. First, you must learn your place from the very bottom as a maid. Your life as a person is over. Your life as a product has just begun. Your first lesson in this new life is that floors have a soul. And that soul apparently is only satisfied by the vigorous application of a damp cloth and a great deal of your elbow grease. As a shikomi, the lowest ranking creature in the Okiya's ecosystem, you are little more than a maid. This isn't some short-term internship with a glowing letter of recommendation at the end. This is a trial by fire designed to strip away your pride and teach you obedience. You wake before the sun, when the air in the small room you share with other junior girls is still biting cold. Your first task is to get the house running, sliding open the heavy wooden shutters, stoking the coals in the kitchen hearth, and the various hibachi, the small charcoal braziers that serve as the only source of heat. Your days are a blur of relentless, repetitive labor. You sweep the tatami mats, careful to follow the grain. You polish the dark wooden corridors until you can see your own weary face reflected in their surface. You run errands through the winding streets of the Hanamachi, your thin sandals slapping against the cold cobblestones, fetching everything from tofu for the evening meal to a specific type of hair oil for one of the senior geisha. You spend hours in the washing area, your hands raw from the harsh soap and cold water as you scrub stains from priceless silk kimonos. A single mistake here could add a crippling sum to the debt you don't even fully understand you have yet. The house itself is a labyrinth of unspoken rules. You learn to walk silently to anticipate needs before they are spoken, and to make yourself as small and invisible as possible. The undisputed ruler of this domain is the Oka-san, the house mother, who bought you. She is your sole source of food shelter, and most terrifyingly, approval. Her moods dictate the atmosphere of the entire house. A misplaced teacup, or a floor not scrubbed to her impossible standards, can earn you a sharp word, a slap across the face, or the denial of your already meager dinner. It's the most stressful performance review you could imagine, and it happens about 20 times a day. Above you in the hierarchy are the maiko apprentice geisha and the senior geisha, your designated older sisters, or onisan. You are their personal servant. You help them with the exhausting process of dressing, fetching the dozens of cord sashes and pads required for their kimonos. You bow when they enter a room and endure their criticisms, which are often just the result of their own exhaustion or frustration. They are not always cruel. Sometimes a kinder sister might sneak you a sweet or offer a quiet word of encouragement. But the system doesn't reward kindness. It rewards perfection and discipline. This entire world, the Karyukai, was a matriarchy. That's a historical fact that often gets lost in the focus on their male clientele. Men were the customers, the patrons, but women ran the show. The Okasan was a CEO managing a stable of high-value assets, negotiating contracts, and handling the house's finances with an iron will. She had to be tough to survive and succeed in a highly competitive business. Anthropologists and historians debate the true nature of the sisterhood that this matriarchy fostered. Was the bond between an Oni-san and her designated Emoto-san younger sister a genuine supportive mentorship, or was it a more pragmatic hierarchical tool to ensure discipline and the orderly transfer of skills and eventually wealthy patrons? From your vantage point on the floor, it feels a lot more like the latter. Life isn't all drudgery, though. There are quirky, specific skills you pick up. You learn the precise, almost ritualistic way to prepare the charcoal for the hibachis, fanning it just so until it glows with a perfect smokeless heat. This was a surprisingly important skill, as a smoky brazier could ruin the atmosphere of a party and stain the expensive kimonos in the room. You also learn to recognize the distinctive click-clack of every geisha's wooden sandals or okobo, so you know who is approaching without even looking. It's a kind of sonar for survival. In the evenings, after your work is finally done and your body aches with a fatigue that settles deep in your bones, you sometimes catch glimpses of the life you're supposedly working towards. You see your older sisters leaving for their appointments at the tea houses transformed. The women who hours earlier were complaining about a headache or a poorly tied sash are now breathtaking figures of art. Their faces are perfect white masks. Their hair is a gleaming sculptural marvel, and their movements are filled with a grace you can barely comprehend. You hear the faint melancholy notes of a shamisen drifting from an upstairs room, or the sound of laughter from a banquet you are not allowed to attend. This is the magic trick. This is the promise. It's a distant, shimmering world, and the price of admission is your sweat, your obedience, and the complete surrender of your own will. And as you finally curl up on your thin futon, you wonder if you'll ever be worthy of paying it. After months, maybe even a year, of scrubbing, polishing, and running errands, the Okasan finally decides you haven't run away or broken any of the priceless ceramics. Your trial period as a shikomi is over. You might expect a wave of relief, but what washes over you instead is a new kind of dread. The physical labor of being a maid was exhausting, but it was simple. Now, your real education begins, and you will soon learn that there are many, many different flavors of suffering. Your body, which already aches from your chores, is about to be pushed to new and creative limits. You are going to become an artist, whether you like it or not. Your days are now split. You still have chores, but several hours are carved out for lessons. Your first and most enduring torment is the posture. For everything dance, music, tea ceremony, you must sit in seiza. You kneel, folding your legs neatly beneath your thighs, your entire body weight resting on your ankles and heels. For the first 10 minutes, it's merely uncomfortable. After 20, your feet begin to scream, with pins and needles, a sensation that soon turns into a dull, throbbing burn. After an hour, you feel nothing at all, which is somehow even more terrifying. You feel like you're floating disconnected from the lower half of your body, yet you are forbidden from fidgeting or showing any discomfort. It's like being forced to do a plank, except it lasts for hours. You have to do it while learning a complex skill, and your only reward is not getting yelled at. Then there are the dance lessons. You are taken to a stern, unsmiling dance master whose every movement is the epitome of the grace you are expected to emulate. But the process of getting there is anything but graceful. You spend hours learning how to hold a fan just so, how to turn your head at the perfect demure angle, and how to take tiny shuffling steps that feel utterly unnatural. The dance style you learn. A historical fact here is that different districts specialized in different forms, like the famous kyomai of Gion, is all about subtle suggestion and control. It requires immense core strength and balance. You hold painful poses for what feels like an eternity, your muscles trembling with the effort only to be corrected with a sharp rap of a fan on your shoulder or leg. Your hands, already calloused from housework, are introduced to a new instrument of pain, the shamisen. The three-stringed lute is heavier than it looks, and learning to play it is a battle. You have to hold it just right, your arm aching from the weight. You use a large, heavy plectrum, called a bachi, and learning to strike the strings with the right combination of force and delicacy leaves your fingertips raw and blistered. Day after day, you pluck out scales and simple folk songs, the repetitive twanging notes drilling into your brain. Your teacher, another formidable older woman, listens with an expression of deep disappointment, occasionally stopping you to reposition your fingers with a grip that feels strong enough to snap bone. But being a geisha isn't just about being a silent, beautiful performer. You must also be a charming conversationalist. This is a bit of a challenge considering your verbal repertoire so far has mostly consisted of, "Yes, Oka-san," and "I'm very sorry, Oka-san." You are taught how to pour tea and sake with a hand that never trembles, how to engage in witty banter, how to laugh at jokes that aren't funny, and how to play the often silly party games, or ozashiki asobi, that are a staple of any geisha-led banquet. One of the quirkier training methods involved learning to pour sake perfectly. An instructor might demand you pour from a heavy ceramic bottle into a tiny cup without spilling a single drop over and over again. The goal was to develop an unshakable steadiness and grace under pressure. Historians still debate the extent to which this intense artistic curriculum was about the noble preservation of Japanese high culture versus the more cynical creation of a luxury product. Were you truly being shaped into a custodian of ancient traditions, or were these skills simply a way to brand you to justify the exorbitant fees that patrons would one day pay for your time? As your legs burn and your fingers bleed, it certainly feels less like a cultural honor and more like being meticulously crafted for the marketplace. The pain, the discipline, the endless repetition, it's all designed to transform you from a clumsy, frightened girl into an object of unattainable desire. You are being rebuilt, piece by painful piece. And every morning you wake up wondering if today's version of you will finally be good enough. After years of aching limbs and raw fingertips, you've finally been deemed ready. Not ready to be a full geisha, mind you, but to debut as a maiko and apprentice. This is the moment you've been working towards, the moment you finally get to step into the world of the Hanamachi as a true performer. It also happens to be the moment you are introduced to a whole new level of physical misery, because becoming a work of art is an agonizing process. Your body is no longer your own. It is a canvas, and the materials are heavy, toxic, and fantastically uncomfortable. It begins with the makeup. An older sister guides you through the ritual. First, a thick waxy oil called Bintsuki Abura is warmed in her hands and smeared all over your face, neck, and chest. It feels greasy and heavy, and its purpose is to act as a primer, something for the iconic white foundation to cling to. Then comes the oshiroi, the white paste itself. She mixes a powder with water and begins to paint it on layer by layer until your own features are completely gone, hidden under a perfect, impenetrable mask. For centuries, a key ingredient in this powder was lead. So as you sit there, you're not just wearing a heavy, pore-clogging cosmetic. You're wearing a slow-acting poison. It's like a beauty filter from a phone app, except it's suffocating your skin and might give you neurological damage. That's a fun little bonus. Your eyebrows are flattened with the wax, and new serene arches are drawn higher on your forehead with charcoal. Lines of black and red define your eyes. For a junior maiko like you, only the bottom lip is painted a vibrant crimson, with a plant-based dye called beni creating a pout that suggests innocence and youth. The final, most alluring touch is the nape of your neck. Your sister carefully paints the white foundation to leave 2, and sometimes for special occasions, 3 unpainted prongs of skin showing. This patch of bare skin, the ariashi, is considered a point of intense erotic appeal in contrast to the masked face. Next comes the hair. Unlike a senior geisha who often wears a wig, your hair is your own. Once a week, you endure a torturous session with the hairdresser. Your hair is pulled, sectioned, coated in wax, and forced into one of the elaborate nihongami styles. For a new maiko, this is often the wear shinobu style, with a red ribbon threaded through a prominent bun. The constant, intense pulling gives you a persistent headache, and over the years will cause your hairline to recede, a permanent badge of your maiko years. To preserve this architectural marvel for an entire week, you can no longer sleep on a normal pillow. You are given a takamakura, which is less a pillow and more a beautifully lacquered instrument of sleep deprivation. It's a small, hard-curved block that supports your neck, leaving the back of your head and your priceless hairstyle suspended in midair. Every night is a challenge in stillness. You live in fear of rolling over in your sleep, which would crush the hairdo and earn the Okasan's wrath. As a quaint little tidbit, some okiya would scatter rice around the base of the takamakura. If you rolled off, the crunching sound and the mess of rice stuck in your waxed hair would be your rude awakening. Finally, you are dressed. This is not a simple matter of slipping on a robe. It's a construction project. Layers of undergarments are wrapped around you, padded and tied to create the ideal cylindrical torso with no hint of a natural curve. Then comes the kimono itself, a magnificent heavy silk garment with sleeves that hang almost to the floor. The final piece is the darari obi, the dangling sash, a stunningly beautiful brocade belt that can be over 20 feet long and weighs a surprising amount. It's wrapped tightly around your torso and tied in a huge, elaborate knot that hangs down your back. The entire ensemble can weigh up to 45 pounds. You feel like you're being squeezed by a very fashionable boa constrictor. Breathing is a shallow affair, and every movement is a conscious effort. To complete the look, you slide your feet into a kobo tall wooden clogs that can be 6 inches high, ringing with a distinctive bell hidden inside. Historians and fashion theorists still argue about the true purpose of this restrictive attire. Was it purely to uphold a classical aesthetic? Or did it also serve as a form of social control? When it takes an hour to get dressed, and you can barely walk, breathe, or sleep properly, you have very little energy or opportunity for a private life. Your costume binds you physically to your role, reinforcing your complete dependence on the okiya. You are now officially a maiko. You are beautiful, elegant, and exquisitely comprehensively miserable. You stand before a mirror, a vision in crimson and white. The weight of the kimono on your shoulders, the ache in your scalp from the tightly pulled hair, the precarious feeling of the tall okobo beneath your feet. You thought this was the price of beauty. You were wrong. This is merely the down payment. The real cost is something you are about to learn, and it has nothing to do with physical discomfort. The Okasan summons you to her small, tidy office. She gestures for you to sit in the painful seiza position, of course, and silently places a long, cloth-bound ledger on the low table in front of you. She opens it, and your new life as an accountant of your own misery begins. This is your ashi, she explains your debt. Her finger, elegant and unadorned, taps the first page. She begins to read from it in a calm, businesslike tone. The list is long and terrifyingly specific. First, there's the sum she paid to your family all those years ago. You'd almost managed to forget that you were in fact purchased. Then there's the cost of your food and lodging for every single day. You lived in the okiya as a shikomi, a maid, who worked from dawn until dusk. There are the fees for your dance instructor, the fees for your shamisen teacher, the cost of every single fan plectrum and sheet of music. She turns the page. Your eyes widen. Here are the costs for your new wardrobe. The number next to a single formal kimono is so large you can barely comprehend it. These are not off-the-rack dresses. They are bespoke works of art, made from hand-dyed, hand-painted, and hand-embroidered silk. A single one can cost the equivalent of a modern luxury car. And you don't just have one. You have dozens for different seasons and different levels of formality. The ledger lists them all, your dozen stunning hair ornaments, or kanzashi, your collection of magnificent obi sashes, the makeup that gets applied to your face each day. It's all there, every last yen. It's like discovering you have a student loan, but it's from a university that charges you for your textbooks, your cafeteria, meals every night in the dorm, and the air you breathed in the lecture hall. The final sum is astronomical. A mountain of debt so high you cannot imagine ever climbing it. This, the Okasan explains, is the chain that binds you to the okiya. You are not free to leave. You are not free to work elsewhere. You are not free until every last yen, plus the ongoing costs of your upkeep, has been paid back to the house. This is the gilded cage, made manifest in neat columns of ink. So, how do you earn money? At the parties and banquets you attend, your time is billed to the client. A common and rather quirky historical method for this was billing by the incense stick. A central registry office, the kenbun, which functioned as both a union and a booking agency, handled the arrangements. When you were at a party, the tea house hostess would light a special incense stick of a predetermined length and burn time. Your final bill was calculated based on how many sticks had burned during your engagement. But that money, that incense stick fee, does not go to you. It goes directly to the okiya. The okiya, in turn, uses it to pay down your debt. You will be given a tiny allowance for incidentals enough to buy a hairpin or a sweet rice cake, but you will see almost none of your own earnings for years, possibly decades. This system of earnings, where a geisha's income was split between the okiya and the tea house with only a small portion called gyoku, or jewel money, going to her, was the standard. Sociologists and economists still debate how to classify this system. Was it a unique, if harsh, form of apprenticeship financing, allowing girls from poor backgrounds to enter a profession that required enormous upfront investment? Or was it more simply a form of indentured servitude, a beautiful prison from which escape was financially impossible for all but the most successful? From where you're sitting, staring at a number that represents more money than your entire village would see in a decade, it feels very much like the latter. The beautiful silks you wear suddenly feel heavier, not with their physical weight, but with the crushing burden of what they represent. They are not gifts, they are shackles, and the ledger book is the lock. Your job is no longer just to dance and sing and pour tea. Your real job is to work off a debt so massive it threatens to swallow your entire life. Staring at the crushing figures in the okiya's ledger, you feel a profound sense of hopelessness. Paying off that debt with your tiny share of party fees seems as likely as filling the ocean with a teaspoon. There is, however, one socially acceptable and, in fact, highly encouraged way out of this financial abyss. It is the ultimate career goal for any geisha, the move that signals you have truly arrived. You need to acquire a dana. A dana is not merely a good customer. He is a patron, a sponsor, a long-term benefactor. Think of him as a sort of corporate sponsor for your one-woman artistic enterprise. The arrangement is complex, carrying echoes of a common law marriage, but stripped of any legal rights or social recognition for you. His primary role is to solve your biggest problem, your debt. A potential dana, typically a wealthy, married, high-status businessman or politician, will negotiate directly with your okasan. If he is deemed suitable, he will pay off a significant portion, or in some cases, all of your remaining debt to the okiya. He then assumes responsibility for your considerable expenses, your new kimonos, your rent at the okiya or in a separate apartment, your ongoing lessons, your hairdresser. Financially, it's the break you've been praying for. The constant grinding pressure of the ledger book is finally lifted. This financial security, however, comes with a very heavy set of invisible strings. Your autonomy, the little you had, is gone. In securing a dana, you trade your debt to the house for a new kind of bondage to a single individual. Your time is no longer your own to bill out by the incense stick. Your dana has first claim on you. If he wishes for your company at a business dinner, you must be there. If he wants you to accompany him to the theater, you go. You become a beautiful, cultured accessory to his life, a testament to his wealth and refined taste. It's a bit like signing an exclusive multi-year contract for a role you never auditioned for, with an agent and a studio head handling all the negotiations on your behalf. And the relationship is expected to be intimate. While the world of the geisha is famously distinct from prostitution, the dana arrangement exists in a gray area. A physical sexual relationship is an unspoken but universally understood component of the patronage. You have no real power to refuse. Furthermore, you are expected to be completely faithful to him. He, on the other hand, almost certainly has a wife and family at home and is free to see other geisha if he so chooses. It's an open relationship where only one side of the door is actually open. Finding a Dana isn't like dating. You don't choose him, he chooses you. A man who takes a special interest in you will demonstrate his intentions through his patronage at the tea houses you frequent. A key historical fact is that this entire ecosystem was built on such relationships. The Dana system provided the massive capital infusions necessary to keep the incredibly expensive world of the Karyukai solvent. A quirky tidbit about this process is how a man would signal his seriousness. It wasn't just about whispering promises. It was about public displays of wealth. He might commission an entire new set of priceless kimonos for you, one for each season. He might even pay for a new roof for the okiya itself, a grand gesture that announced to the entire community that he had the resources and the commitment to become your patron. Scholars of gender studies and history continue to debate the true nature of this complex relationship. Was it simply a form of sophisticated long-term concubinage wrapped in the pretty paper of art and culture? Was it a pragmatic business arrangement that offered a woman her only real path to financial stability in a highly restrictive world? Or, as some historical accounts and memoirs suggest, could genuine affection, companionship, and even love blossom within this profoundly unequal framework? The possibility for real connection existed, but it could never erase the fundamental power imbalance. The Dana holds all the cards. He can end the arrangement at any time, leaving you without financial support and with a damaged reputation that could make it difficult to find another patron. So, you wait. You entertain. You dance. You pour sake. And you hope that the right man, the wealthiest man, the kindest man, the least demanding man, takes a liking to you. You hope he will be the one to buy your freedom from the okiya, even if it's only to place you in a new, more comfortable, and infinitely more complicated cage. Whether you now have a Dana to please or are still chipping away at the mountain of debt you owe the okiya, your nights all follow a similar pattern. They are spent in the soft, warm light of the ochiya, the exclusive tea houses where you entertain. Your work has begun. From the outside, it is the pinnacle of Japanese elegance. From the inside, it is an endurance sport disguised by silk and perfume. You arrive a perfect vision of art and kneel just inside the sliding paper screen of a private tatami room. The air is already warm and thick with the smell of expensive sake and catered food. A key historical fact of this world is that tea houses were exclusively venues for entertainment. They didn't cook. All food was ordered from high-end local restaurants and delivered, creating a complex and interdependent neighborhood economy. Inside the room are several men, businessmen, politicians, artists laughing and talking. Your job is to glide into this scene and elevate it to be the living, breathing centerpiece of a perfect evening. Your first task is to manage the drinks. You move around the low table on your knees, a motion that becomes a unique form of shuffling torture over the course of a 4-hour banquet. You fill the tiny porcelain sake cups, or sakazuki, again and again, never letting one sit empty. You have to remember who is drinking beer and who is drinking which type of sake. You light the men's cigarettes. You do it all with a serene smile and a grace that betrays none of the burning pain in your legs or the strain in your back from the heavy obi. Then there's the conversation. You must be a master of small talk. You flatter, you listen intently to long, boring stories about business dealings or golf scores. You laugh at jokes, especially the bad ones. Your sole purpose is to make these powerful men feel clever, charming, and utterly fascinating. By the end of a long night, your face aches from holding a pleasant, interested expression. They call it emotional labor now. Back then, it was simply the job. Your resting geisha face is a carefully constructed mask of delight. And of course, you are there to perform. At a lull in the conversation, a client will call for a song. You take up your shamisen and sing a plaintive ballad, your voice steady despite your exhaustion. They will ask for a dance, and you will rise your movements fluid and perfect within the tight confines of the room, using your fan to tell a story. You are the live entertainment, the human radio, the classical Spotify playlist that can also pour you a drink. As the night wears on and the men drink more, the atmosphere can change. The respectful admiration for your art can fray at the edges. The jokes get louder, the laughter coarser. You might be asked to play party games or ozashiki azobi. Some are charming, but many are simply silly, drinking games designed to get everyone tipsy. A particularly quirky one is Tora Tora Tora, Tiger Tiger Tiger. It's basically a full-body version of rock, paper, scissors, where you and a guest separated by a screen have to emerge posing as a spearman, an old woman, or a tiger. It's deeply goofy, but you must play it with the utmost seriousness and grace, which is a challenge when the client opposite you is red-faced and stumbling. You are also expected to drink. Refusing a cup from a guest is a grave insult. You learn tricks, sipping slowly, turning your head to talk, while forgetting to drink. But it's impossible to avoid consuming alcohol. Managing your own intoxication while dealing with drunken clients is one of the most difficult and dangerous parts of the job. Some men become clumsy, their hands landing on your arm or shoulder in ways that are just a little too familiar. Your dance training proves useful here as you become an expert in the art of the graceful sway, moving just out of reach without causing offense. Historians and sociologists of labor still debate how to classify what you do. Is it art? Is it a service? Or is it a unique and highly skilled form of emotional labor, long before that term was ever coined? The real question is, what precisely are the clients paying for the beautiful dance, or the unwavering, flattering attention that makes them feel like a king for a few hours? As you finally make your way home in the pre-dawn quiet, your head spinning from sake and your body screaming with fatigue, the distinction feels irrelevant. You are simply profoundly tired, and you have to do it all again tomorrow. You stumble home through the silent, sleeping streets of the Hanamachi, the echo of feigned laughter still ringing in your ears. The heavy silk kimono feels like a suit of armor you've worn into battle, and the grease paint of your makeup feels like a hardened mask. You crave the simple relief of your futon. But when you slide open the door to the okiya, you are not stepping into a sanctuary. You are walking from the front line of one battlefield onto another. The tea house is where you fight for your client's approval. The okiya is where you fight for survival amongst your sisters. The whole structure of your world is built on the idea of a fabricated family. You call the owner mother. You are assigned an onisan, an older sister, to guide you. This relationship is often formalized in a ceremony where you share a ritual cup of sake binding you together. In theory, this is a beautiful system of mentorship, a way to pass down knowledge and connections. In reality, it's often the breeding ground for a particularly bitter kind of rivalry. Welcome to the backstage drama, which is far more vicious than any performance you give for a client. It's like a season of a reality TV show, except the house is smaller, the outfits are more expensive, and the passive aggression is a finely honed art form. The competition is relentless because the stakes are so incredibly high. Every geisha in the house is a direct rival for the same limited resources bookings, tips, reputation, and the ultimate prize, a wealthy donna. Popularity is not just a matter of pride, it's a matter of financial survival. The geisha, who gets the most calls from the most prestigious tea houses, is the one who pays her debt off faster. She's the one who gets the first pick of the new silk for kimonos, the one the Okasan smiles upon. Resentment festers in the quiet corners of the house, like mold in the damp Kyoto air. This rivalry doesn't usually manifest in open conflict. The world of the geisha values harmony and surface-level grace above all else. The attacks are subtle, insidious, and almost always deniable. The primary weapon is gossip, a carefully chosen word whispered to a tea house mistress about how you seemed a little unsteady on your feet at last night's banquet. A quiet, concerned-sounding remark to a senior geisha about how a certain important client didn't seem very impressed with your dancing. These whispers can ruin your reputation and dry up your bookings. Then, there are the accidents. The day you're set to attend a party with a very influential politician, your most beautiful and expensive tortoiseshell hair, comb your kanzashi goes missing from its box. You're forced to wear a less impressive one, a subtle blow to your prestige. A few drops of soy sauce somehow get splashed onto the sleeve of your brand new kimono, right before you leave for an engagement, forcing a last-minute panicked change into an older, less stunning garment. Your rival will offer 1,000 apologies for her clumsiness, her face a perfect mask of regret. There is nothing you can do. Historians still argue whether this intense Darwinian competition was just an unfortunate byproduct of the geisha world's economic structure, or if it was a deliberate management strategy employed by the Okiya mothers. Did they foster a survival of the fittest environment, believing it would weed out the weak and produce the most profitable, hardened professionals? From your perspective, it just feels like you can never let your guard down. Even the practice of gift-giving, a quirky tidbit of Hanamachi life, is a minefield. On holidays, you have to give gifts to teachers, patrons, and even your rivals. A gift that's too cheap is an insult, but one that's too lavish can be seen as arrogant. It's a test of social intelligence, where a wrong move can make you a host of new enemies. You learn to be cunning. You learn to keep your best accessories under lock and key. You learn to hold your tongue and to never ever reveal a personal weakness because it will be cataloged and used against you. The sisterhood is a beautiful idea, but the reality is that you are all in a silent, undeclared war. The girl who sleeps on the futon next to you, the one who might help you tie your obi in the morning, is the same one who might be whispering poison about you in the afternoon. And as you finally lie down on your hard pillow, the exhaustion from your work mixes with the stress of your home life, creating a weary, anxious state that is your new normal. There is no rest for the wicked, and apparently none for the beautifully dressed and deeply indebted either. The constant hum of anxiety from the rivalries within the Okiya is a poison for your mind. But there are other, more literal poisons and unseen dangers that are slowly working away at your body. The beautiful image you present to the world is bought at a steep physical price, a long, slow erosion of your health that happens one silk-wrapped, lead-painted, alcohol-soaked day at a time. Your body, you are beginning to realize, is not a temple. It's a factory, and the working conditions are terrible. Let's go back to that iconic white makeup, the oshiroi. Remember, the secret ingredient for centuries was lead. Every single day, you paint a layer of toxic heavy metal onto your skin. It seeps into your pores, into your bloodstream. The immediate effects are skin problems, rashes, and breakouts that you simply cover with more white paint the next day. But the long-term effects are far more sinister. You suffer from persistent stomach aches, a metallic taste in your mouth, and a constant wearying irritability that you chalk up to the stress of the job. It's the slow, creeping advance of chronic lead poisoning. You don't know that's what it is, of course. Medical historians and social scientists still debate how much the geisha community understood about these specific occupational hazards. Did you connect the paint to the pain? Or was it just another mysterious ailment to be endured? To counteract the damage, you might turn to some of the popular, if quirky, remedies of the day. One highly prized treatment was a facial paste made from nightingale droppings, known as uguisu, no fun. The powdered excrement was believed to contain enzymes that would cleanse the skin and bleach away imperfections. So there you are after a night of being poisoned by lead, applying sterilized bird poop to your face in the desperate hope of repairing the damage. It's a very strange form of organic skincare. The damage, however, goes far deeper than your skin. Your entire musculoskeletal system is under constant assault. The years of sitting in seiza, kneeling for hours on end at lessons and banquets, have ruined your knees. You have a constant dull ache that sometimes sharpens into a searing pain. This will likely develop into crippling arthritis later in life. Your back is in a similar state of protest. That stunning kimono and obi combination can weigh nearly 45 pounds, and you wear it for 6, 8, maybe 10 hours a night. The strain on your spine is immense. And then there's your hair. The constant pulling and waxing has taken its toll. When you finally graduate from maiko to geisha and can wear a wig, you see the damage clearly. Your hairline has noticeably receded, a permanent bald reminder of the price of those beautiful, elaborate hairstyles. The okiya itself, your home, is another source of risk. Traditional wooden houses, while beautiful, were often drafty and difficult to keep truly clean by modern standards. You live in close quarters with many other women. A simple cold or flu can rip through the house in a matter of days, and you can't take a sick day when a client has booked you. You push through the fever, the aches, the coughing, because not showing up is not an option. Then there are the hazards of the banquet room itself. Night after night, you inhabit a space thick with tobacco smoke, a constant irritant to your lungs, and you drink. You must drink with the clients to be a good hostess. A historical fact often overlooked in the aesthetics of the geisha world is that chronic alcoholism and liver disease were significant occupational hazards. You are trapped in a cycle of nocturnal work, which means you are chronically sleep deprived. Your body never truly gets to rest and repair itself. It's all part of a slow decline you are expected to weather with a smile and a gracefully poured cup of sake. All of these ailments, the joint pain, the skin conditions, the respiratory issues, were historically just seen as part of the job, not as preventable consequences of a dangerous work environment. You are a flower in the flower and willow world, and no one wants to admit that the flower is slowly, surely wilting from the inside out. Your body is a landscape of aches and pains, a testament to the slow, grinding wear of your profession. But there is a deeper ache, one that no amount of massage or folk remedies can soothe. It is the hollow space where a normal life is supposed to be. For all the talk of art culture and elegance, the geisha's code is built upon a foundation of profound personal sacrifice. The most significant of these is the renunciation of love and family. The number one rule, the one from which all others flow, is simple and absolute. A geisha cannot marry. The moment you decide to become a wife, you must retire. Your entire professional identity is predicated on a kind of public ownership. You belong to the flower and willow world, an object of fantasy for many, but the property of no single man in the conventional sense. Your appeal lies in your perceived availability, not necessarily in a physical way, but in a social one. You are the ultimate unattainable companion. A wedding ring would shatter that illusion instantly. This prohibition extends far beyond marriage. You are forbidden from having a private romantic relationship of any kind. Falling in love for a geisha is the ultimate professional taboo. It's career suicide wrapped in a clandestine glance. Imagine you're at a festival and you see a young craftsman, a fan maker perhaps, whose smile makes your stomach flutter in a way that a client's compliments never have. You must crush that feeling instantly. You must bury it deep beneath layers of professionalism and practice detachment. To pursue it would be to risk everything. If you were discovered to have a secret lover, the consequences would be swift and brutal. Your Okasan would see it as the ultimate betrayal, not of her feelings, but of her investment. A geisha in love is a distracted geisha. Her mind is not on her art, her conversation, or her clients. She is a liability. You would likely be cast out of the okiya, your reputation in tatters, and your debt would follow you, an anchor drowning any hope of a fresh start. There are, of course, countless stories and whispers of such forbidden affairs, a quirky, if dangerous part of the world's lore. Geisha have historically used elaborate ruses to meet secret lovers, feigning a sudden sickness to miss an appointment, bribing a young maid to carry secret messages using the back entrance of a trusted tea house for a fleeting whispered conversation. The danger was part of the thrill, but the fall, if caught, was absolute. This enforced emotional celibacy creates a strange and lonely inner world. Your job requires you to be a master of simulated intimacy. You flatter, you charm, you hang on every word from your clients, creating a bubble of warmth and affection for which they pay dearly. You spend your nights pouring out a carefully measured performance of devotion, and when you return home, your own heart must remain empty and locked away. Then there is the family you left behind, a faded photograph in your memory. You might send money back to your village, but you are no longer a part of that life. You are the auntie from the city, a strange painted creature whose life is beyond their comprehension. You can never go back, and you cannot build a new family of your own. Having a child is unthinkable. A pregnancy means the immediate non-negotiable end of your career. The okiya is a business, not a creche. The sisters you live with are your only family now. But as you know all too well, it is a family forged in competition and financial dependency, not unconditional love. Historians and sociologists still debate the psychological fallout of this demanding lifestyle. Did most geisha successfully sublimate their personal desires into their art, finding fulfillment in their craft and in the complex, non-romantic relationships with their patrons? Or did this stark prohibition on love lead to a hidden world of emotional turmoil, secret affairs, and a profound loneliness that no amount of silk or praise could ever truly fill? The truth for you is somewhere in the quiet moments. It's in the glimpse of a mother holding her child's hand on the street, a sight that causes a pang in your chest, so sharp it makes you catch your breath. It is the silent, lonely understanding that the art of being a geisha is ultimately the art of giving everything away and keeping nothing for yourself. Your heart is a locked garden, a place where personal affection is forbidden to grow. But the demands on your life are not limited to just denying you love. They will at one crucial juncture lay claim to your physical intimacy in the most transactional way imaginable. This is the part of your story that is most shrouded in rumor, controversy, and misunderstanding. It is the ceremony of mizuaj. The term itself, meaning raising the waters, is a delicate euphemism. On the surface, it is your formal coming-of-age ceremony, the pivotal moment you transition from a senior maiko into a full-fledged junior geisha or geiko. It is marked by a change in your hairstyle and the color of your kimono's collar. But historically, for a long and dark period in the geisha world, mizuaj had a much more profound and invasive meaning. It involved the ritualized loss of your virginity to a patron who had paid an enormous sum of money for the privilege. This is not a romance. It is not the start of a relationship with a dana. It is a business deal, pure and simple, and it is the single most important financial event of your career. Your okasan, ever the shrewd businesswoman, will have been quietly managing this for months. Potential candidates, all wealthy and respected men, will have been making their interest known. A silent informal auction takes place, and the honor is granted to the highest bidder. You are informed of the arrangement not consulted. You are told that the man is a person of great status and that this is a fortunate and necessary step in your journey. You are told it is an honor. It feels less like an honor and more like being the final prized lot at an auction where you were the entire catalog. The sum paid for your mizuaj is astronomical. It's the most effective and most personally costly debt relief program imaginable. In a single night, the entirety of that crushing debt that has loomed over you for years, your purchase price, your lessons, your kimonos can be wiped clean from the ledger. From a purely financial perspective, it is your salvation. It frees you from the okia's direct financial control and makes you a far more valuable asset, now eligible to seek a long-term dana of your own. In the days leading up to the event, you walk around in a state of quiet, numb dread. You perform at your parties, you smile, you pour sake, but your mind is elsewhere. The man chosen might be old or young-kind or callous. It makes no difference. He is not a person to you. He is a function, a key that will unlock the next stage of your life. The entire process is handled with a cold, detached formality that is somehow more chilling than open cruelty. It's crucial to state this clearly. This practice was officially and definitively outlawed in Japan by the prostitution prevention law passed after World War II. The mizuaj ceremony that exists for modern geisha is a lovely symbolic affair that involves changes in dress and hairstyle and has absolutely no sexual component. But for you living in this earlier, harsher time, the specter of this transaction is very real. Historians and cultural anthropologists passionately debate the exact nature and prevalence of this practice. Was it a universal and expected part of every maiko's career before the war? Or was it more common in some districts than others? And how did the geisha themselves perceive it? As a deeply traumatic violation or as a grimly accepted pragmatic necessity of their economic world? The surviving accounts are few and often filtered through layers of shame and social expectation. In the days after the world sees your new status, you go to the hairdresser for the last time as a maiko. The intricate wear-shinobu style with its visible split bun is unraveled. Your hair is restyled into the more mature ofuku, where the bun is a smooth, solid shape. This change in hairstyle is a quirky and fascinating public signal, an advertisement to the entire hanamachi that your mizuage is complete. It's a bit like changing your relationship status online, but done with wax and combs, broadcasting a deeply private event to everyone you know. You are no longer a girl. You are, by the cold, hard rules of your world, a woman now ready for the next stage of your career. But as you look at your own reflection, you feel impossibly old and the ledger, though now clear of debt, feels like it has simply been replaced by a different kind of invisible account, one whose cost you will carry forever. The mizuage ceremony, with its cold, hard transaction, has drawn a new firm line in your life. But for the outside world, the lines have always been blurry. You are an artist. You have spent more than a decade of your life in grueling training to master dance music and the subtle art of conversation. Your name, Geisha, literally means arts person, yet you will spend your entire career fighting the pervasive, deeply insulting, and stubbornly persistent misconception that you are simply a very expensive, very elegant prostitute. This confusion has deep historical roots. In the entertainment districts of old Japan, the floating world, there were many kinds of women. The most famous were the oiran, the high-ranking courtesans. They, like you, were beautiful, wore elaborate kimonos, and were skilled in some of the arts. They were the superstars of the pleasure quarters. The critical difference, of course, was that their profession was explicitly the art of lovemaking, while yours is the love of art. In fact, a mainstream historical fact that's often forgotten is that the very first geisha were men dancers, musicians, and jesters who entertained clients waiting to see the main attraction, the great courtesans. When women later entered the profession, they were strictly forbidden from competing with the courtesans for sexual business. The distinction was once legally and socially clear. But time ignorance and the blurring of lines through practices like the Dana system and the historical mizuage have created a sticky, damaging myth. You live with the consequences of this myth every single day. At a banquet, a new client flush with sake and arrogance might lean in too close. His hand might linger on your arm. His questions might become lewd and suggestive. He sees your white makeup, your silk kimono, and assumes you are part of a package deal. In these moments, you must draw on all your training. You must become a master of the polite deflection, a black belt in the art of the graceful shutdown. You must pivot, change the subject, feign a sudden deep interest in the calligraphy on the wall, or simply ask with a perfect smile, "More sake for you, sir." You have to reject his advance without bruising his ego, because offending a client is bad for business. It's a constant, wearying tightrope walk over a pit of misunderstanding. Outside the glowing lantern light of your hanamachi, the judgment can be even harsher. As you walk down a busy city street in full regalia, you are a spectacle. Children point. But the adult stares are more complicated. Some are looks of awe, but many are filled with a cold contempt. You hear the whispers. You are in their eyes, a fallen woman, a creature of the night, whose beauty is a sign of moral decay. It doesn't matter that your life is more disciplined and far less licentious than that of many of the women whispering about you. You are a symbol, and your true identity is irrelevant. This problem became even worse as Japan opened up to the world. Foreign sailors and merchants, seeing beautifully dressed women in entertainment districts, made assumptions based on their own cultures. They couldn't read the subtle signals that an educated Japanese person would understand. A quirky but important tidbit is that the style of an obi knot was a dead giveaway. A courtesan's obi was tied in the front, making it easier to remove, while yours, as a geisha, is always tied in a complex knot in the back, impossible to undo by yourself. To a Western eye, however, a kimono was just a kimono. Their stories and souvenirs created a lasting global image of the geisha as an exotic prostitute, a fantasy that has persisted for over a century. Historians and sociologists still argue about the degree to which the geisha world itself contributed to this confusion. While not prostitutes, the entire profession is built on an atmosphere of stylized eroticism and unattainable desire. Was this sophisticated marketing that unfortunately backfired by creating confusion? Or was the line always intended to be just a little bit blurry, a little bit mysterious, in a way that was ultimately very profitable? Whatever the academic answer for you, it is a source of profound, quiet frustration. To dedicate your life to an art form, to endure the pain of the training and the sacrifice of a personal life only to be misidentified and cheapened, is a unique and lonely burden. It's a frustrating branding problem. You've trained to be a living embodiment of high culture, but to many people, you will only ever be a pretty product in a fancy wrapper. You have spent your entire adult life navigating a world of intricate rules, subtle insults, and unspoken desires. You've learned to balance the weight of a 45-pound kimono and the heavier weight of a client's ego. You think you have mastered the art of survival. But you, and the entire hermetically sealed world you inhabit, are about to be struck by a force that no amount of grace or wit can deflect. The world outside your hanamachi is changing, and it is marching to the sound of war drums. In the late 1930s, the mood in the tea houses begins to shift. The conversations are no longer about poetry or the stock market. They are about national honor sacrifice and the growing empire. The laughter feels more brittle, the sake is poured with a more aggressive cheer. Extravagant parties begin to seem distasteful, unpatriotic. Being a geisha, a symbol of life's floating, frivolous pleasures, starts to feel like a dangerous anachronism. The vibrant colors of your world are beginning to look like an insult to the drab, militaristic gray that is descending upon the nation. When war finally erupts across the Pacific, the change is swift and devastating. Your patrons disappear, sent to the front lines, their businesses failing, or simply unwilling to be seen spending money on entertainment during a time of national crisis. Bookings dry up. The tea houses, once bustling with laughter and music, become quiet, empty shells. Your source of income, the very economic engine of your existence, has stalled. Then in 1944, the government makes it official. It is a stark historical fact that completely upended your life. All geisha districts, the hanamachi, are ordered to close. The flower and willow world is officially shut down. Your okiya is shuttered, its wooden doors barred. You are for the first time in your life unemployed. Your skills are exquisitely useless now. The ability to play a 17th century ballad on the shamisen does not help you find food during a nationwide shortage. Your knowledge of the tea ceremony is no qualification for a job. You, along with your sisters from the Okiya, are conscripted or pushed into factory work to support the war effort. You trade your priceless silk kimonos for a pair of drab, baggy work trousers called mompe. You swap your delicate fans for greasy, heavy tools. Your days are no longer spent in the soft light of paper lanterns, but under the harsh glare of factory bulbs. The air once scented with incense and fine food is now thick with the smell of machine oil and hot metal. Your artist's hands, trained for a lifetime to be steady and graceful, become calloused and rough from manual labor. This is a new kind of exhaustion, a bone-deep weariness that has none of the artistic glamour of a long night at a banquet. This is the simple, brutal fatigue of hard labor and poor nutrition. Food is strictly rationed. Hunger is a constant gnawing companion, far more real than the stylized melancholy of the songs you used to sing. In a desperate attempt to protect the only real assets, they have many Okiya mothers and senior geisha resort to a quirky, poignant act of preservation. They wrap their most beautiful kimonos in oiled paper and bury them in the ground, praying they will survive the war and the bombing raids that have begun to decimate Japan's cities. Historians still debate the long-term psychological impact of this period on the women of the Karyukai. Did this brief, brutal immersion in the world of the common laborer give you a new perspective, a taste of a different kind of life? Or did the sheer hardship, the loss of status, and the daily grind make you yearn for the gilded cage you once inhabited, a world that, for all its faults, recognized and valued your unique and hard-won talents? For now, all you know is the struggle. The sound of your world is no longer the gentle pluck of a shamisen string. It is the deafening roar of machinery and the chilling wail of the air raid siren, a song that everyone fears. Your identity has been stripped away. You are no longer a geisha. You are a factory worker, a hungry citizen of a collapsing empire, watching as the world you knew is turned to ash. The war ends not with a victory parade, but with the stunned, silent shock of defeat. The mushroom clouds over Hiroshima and Nagasaki are a terrifying full stop to an era. You have survived. You and the handful of other women from your now defunct Okiya crawl out from the wreckage of the war economy, blinking in the harsh light of a new Japan. The Hanamachi, your old stomping grounds, are a shadow of their former selves. Some were damaged in raids. Others are simply derelict. The men who once paid fortunes for your company are gone dead, disgraced, or bankrupt. The entire social and economic ecosystem that sustained you has been annihilated. Slowly, tentatively, the flower and willow world tries to bloom again. A few Okiya reopen. You might even dig up your buried kimonos, the magnificent silks now smelling of damp earth, a poignant reminder of a time of impossible luxury. But you cannot simply pick up where you left off. You are older now. The years of hard labor in the factory have stolen the softness from your hands and the youth from your face. And in the geisha world, youth is the primary currency. Your value has plummeted. This is the final, cruelest joke the profession plays on you. After a lifetime of sacrificing your body, your health, and your heart, you are faced with the simple, brutal reality of aging. The very skills you perfected are now a painful reminder of your own obsolescence. Your knees shot through with arthritis from decades of kneeling protest when you try to dance. Your fingers, stiff and swollen, can no longer fly across the shamisen strings with their old dexterity. Your voice may have grown thin. You watch as new younger maiko make their debut girls who seem impossibly energetic and naive. The patrons, many of them new money industrialists, or more commonly, American GIs from the occupying forces, are drawn to them. You fade into the background. Your professional expertise, you realize, has a shelf life. One day, you are the main performance, and the next, you are simply part of the scenery. What does retirement look like for a woman like you? You have no husband, no children, no family to rely on. You were taught to earn, but never taught to save, as all your income was funneled through the okiya. Your options are stark and limited. The best-case scenario, reserved for the very few, is to become an okasan yourself. If you were exceptionally successful and shrewd, and perhaps had a loyal Donna who set you up in business, you could take over an okiya. You would transition from being the art to being the manager of the art, perpetuating the same system that both sustained and exploited you. It's the geisha equivalent of a corporate promotion moving from the factory floor to the corner office. A more common, though less prestigious path is to become a teacher. You can instruct the new generation in dance or music, your sharp eye catching every flawed posture or fumbled note. You remain a part of the community respected for your knowledge, but you are no longer a star. You are a living archive, a keeper of the traditions that the younger girls must now perform. If you had a faithful Dana, he might support you into your old age, setting you up in a small apartment and providing a stipend. But this is a life lived on a prayer. What happens when he dies, or when his own fortunes fail? Your security is entirely dependent on his generosity and his longevity. For too many, however, the path leads to a quiet, impoverished end. With no safety net, a quirky historical tidbit is that while some districts had rudimentary retirement funds, most were wiped out by wartime inflation. Many former geisha faced destitution. After a life surrounded by unimaginable wealth, you might end your days as a seamstress, a cleaning lady, or a lonely old woman in a tiny room living off a meager pension. This tragic outcome was made even more common by the post-war occupation. A mainstream historical fact is that the influx of GIs led to a boom in prostitutes who called themselves geisha girls, adopting the look to attract clients. This further cemented the public's mistaken identity of your profession, tarnishing the reputation of legitimate geisha and making it even harder to earn a respectable living in the chaotic aftermath of the war. Sociologists who study your world still debate whether this system offered better or worse security for an aging woman than mainstream society, where your fate was tied to a husband and son. But as you look at your dwindling options, the academic debate feels hollow. You are simply another woman who has outlived her usefulness in a world that only values a very specific and very fleeting kind of female beauty. You are an old woman now. The world has spun on leaving your former life far behind. Perhaps you teach dance to young girls, your sharp claps echoing the ones that once corrected you. Perhaps you live quietly in a small apartment, your days measured by the brewing of tea and the rustling of the newspaper. You see your own past staring back at you sometimes from a tourist poster, a novel, or a film. It is the face of a young, beautiful woman, her expression a perfect mask of serene mystery. This is your final prison, and it is the most inescapable one of all. It is the gilded cage of romanticism. This beautiful image is a lie. It is a ghost story that conveniently leaves out all the parts that would make the audience uncomfortable. It is a fantasy that sanitizes your suffering and sells it as art. You look at the image and you want to tell the world what it was really like. You want to tell them that your journey didn't begin with a noble calling to the arts, but with the cold, hard desperation of poverty when your parents sold you as a child. The world sees the glamour of the silk kimonos. You remember the suffocating weight, the 45-pound burden that strained your back, and the way the heavy lead-based makeup poisoned your skin and your body. The world hears the word geisha and thinks of a powerful, independent woman in a matriarchal society. You remember the crushing, lifelong debt that bound you to the okiya. You remember the absolute power of the house mother and the total loss of your autonomy to a donna. You remember the backstabbing rivalries and the constant gnawing fear of being outshone and discarded by your so-called sisters. The modern narrative, the one that gets promoted as a living cultural asset by tourism boards, paints you as a chaste custodian of tradition. It's a clean, simple story. But your life was not clean, and it was certainly not simple. It was a life lived in the murky gray areas complicated by the transactional intimacy of mizuage and the constant wearying struggle to convince the world that you were not a prostitute. Your art was real, but it was practiced in a world that often valued your perceived availability more than your talent. Cultural critics and historians continue to debate whether the romanticized narratives created in the West and in modern Japan have helped preserve your profession by generating interest, or if they have done a profound disservice by cementing a beautiful falsehood. From where you sit, it feels like the latter. Your entire life of hardship has been flattened, polished, and turned into a lovely, consumable myth. The world prefers the story of the exquisite, mysterious orchid. No one wants to hear about the dirt, the bitter fertilizer, and the oppressive heat of the greenhouse it took to grow it. Sometimes, you even see tourists paying for a geisha experience. For an afternoon, they get to wear the kimono, have their face painted, and take pictures. Your existence, a lifetime of sacrifice, pain, discipline, and artistry, has been distilled into a fun photo opportunity. You wonder with a sense of weary detachment if the package includes a brief simulated experience of having your family sell you, or a taste of the lifelong debt just to make it authentic. This is the ultimate reason it sucked to be you. It's not just the hunger, the pain, the loneliness, or the war. It is the final crushing injustice of having your entire complex human experience erased and replaced with a beautiful empty shell. The real you, the tired, tough, scarred, and resilient woman who actually lived this life, is invisible. You are a ghost haunting the edges of a story that is about you, but is no longer yours. And so, the story of that tired, invisible woman comes to a close. The lanterns of the Hanamachi have long since been extinguished, and the sounds of the shamisen have faded into the quiet of the night. Her struggles, her pains, and her small, unrecorded victories now belong to the past, softened by the great distance of time, becoming just a faint echo in a world that has moved on. Let the memory of her hardships gently dissolve, leaving behind only the soft rustle of silk and the peaceful cadence of a story that has been told. The weight of her kimono is not yours to carry. The chill of the okiya's floor is not for you to feel. All of that can now drift away on the slow, easy current of your own breathing. Feel the comfort of your own bed, the simple, honest reality of the pillow beneath your head, and the gentle stillness of your own room. There are no debts to be paid here, No performances to be given. There is only the deep, quiet promise of restorative sleep. Let the last vestiges of her world fade completely and allow your mind to become calm, clear, and ready for rest. Let the darkness be a soft blanket and let the silence be a peaceful friend. It is time to let go of the story and simply drift.